Hey there, Blue Table fans. Just got a Gmail chat from a YouTube subscriber. So this video is dedicated to David D. out in Chicago and his wargaming group at the Chicago Battle Bunker. Now, he was asking me about Beastmen, and you should probably take everything I say with a grain of salt because I'm a play for fun and not a tournament sort of player. But I have picked up a few things over the years, and I do have some insights into 8th edition. And evidently, my friend David drew the lot of Beastmen for his group, and so he's wondering if they are any good and what the implications are. So I'm going to start with core. I believe in 8th edition that ye olde blocks of infantry got a huge boost and will be reinstated as the rightful core of every army. In other words, instead of saying, hey, you have to take these guys, alright, well, I'll take some core troops just because I have to, but I'm spending the rest of my points on cool stuff. Now, those giant blocks of infantry are the cool stuff. And so a couple things have changed, I believe, very much in favor of Beastmen. The first is that their ambush ability just got a lot better. And that's because the rules against marching, i.e. you can't march if within 8 inches, now it's you can't march within 8 inches unless you pass a leadership check. And so that makes marching a lot more likely. And so what happens is your blocks of infantry can make it across the board faster, but for the Beastmen, this is extremely important because if you're using the ambush rule, the guys coming in from the other side of the board will be able to get to bear in a reasonable amount of time. Their charge distance has been drastically increased, effectively making the board smaller. So I think Beastmen are definitely winners on the ambush rule end of things. Primal Fury, I don't know what Hatred does. I can't imagine it's changed that much. But let's get back to the Gore Herd. Gores are 7 points each, and they can have a extra hand weapon for 1 point each, or a shield for 1 point each. Now, I've always been a fan of the shield, and I still am. I think that on the net, it's better to have a shield than an extra hand weapon. So, for Gore Herds, they have a average initiative of 3, and let's see here, they have toughness 4, that's good survivability. They don't have any armor, which is definitely a downside. So I'm looking for the upside of the Gores, and I'm seeing that they have a good weapon skill, above average movement. That's not quite as relevant, but it definitely helps. And they have Primal Fury, so you know that extra hand weapon might not be such a bad option, because with weapon skill and with rerolls that first turn, that extra killing power might just help you out. Alright, the other way that ambush helps the Beastmen is that it narrows their deployment zone. It means that they won't be competing for space along that front line. Now, let's take a look at the heroes. What's happening these days is that cheap heroes, I think you're going to be seeing more of those. Alright, another winner in the Beastmen army, in my opinion, is the Minotaurs. And they came out ahead in 8th edition because now they get the 1 impact hit when charging, no minimum distance like ogres, which is terrible. And if you win a round of combat, you gain Frenzy. And Frenzy is not nearly as bad as it used to be. It used to be, at least for me, I wouldn't take models with Frenzy because you would lose the control over them. But now you just need a leadership check to restrain, and if you got a battle standard bear close by, that's really not bad. So units of 6 or 8 Minotaurs really might be a good investment, because they definitely are winning the game of killing things. And that's because of they have the impact hits. Then they're also going to have the turn they charge. They're also going to have the stomp rule, and all the guys in the second rank are going to be able to attack. And at strength 5, I'm going to say extra hand weapons. I think if you do the math on that, you're going to find out that really is the best way to go. Wouldn't take shields, even though the shields are really amazingly cool looking. Just absolutely outstanding. Alright, now another place to look when you're seeing how your army is faring in 8th edition is the rare section. Orcs and Goblins came out way ahead because they have lots of cheap rares. Skaven are the ultimate winners because now effectively they can have 4 rare spots. It's more common for Warhammer Fantasy to be played at 2250 or 2500 points. Personally, I think 2500 is the minimum you should be playing Warhammer Fantasy at. And 3000 is really, I believe, where Warhammer Fantasy comes into its own. So let's take a look at the rares for Beastmen. Chaos Spawn, which are still really quite pathetic, are 55. Everything else. Alright, so the other awesome rare choices are all 275 each, except for the Giant, which is 225. And I have to say he's pretty lackluster compared to the other ones. So really, oh boy, the Beastmen did not really get any extra rare choices, which is really a crying shame, because the Cygor, awesome. The Gorgon, which I had dismissed earlier on account of Frenzy, guess what? Actually is great now because he gets all the advantages of Frenzy and he's leadership 10. So the Gorgon actually is a pretty good choice. So if I were putting together a list, I would definitely take 2 Gorgons. I mean, they're just so good, you can't even make a choice, because the Gorgon has the Thunder Stomp, which, as you remember from my earlier video, used to be that you'd want to charge in your giant creature on the flank, and because he had 5 wounds and ergo more than 5 unit strength, 5 or more unit strength, he would break ranks, which would take away, 1, 2, or 3 combat resolution. Now, those big creatures, they're just going to kill outright 1, 2, or 3 enemy creatures, typically. So, just with the Thunder Stomp ability. I don't know if that's what it's called, but they basically get ongoing impact hits every turn. So, really, wow. It is just hog heaven in the rare selection of the Beastmen. Unfortunately, you're still only going to get 2. Me personally, I'm a fan of the Jabberslythe, but that's because it's kind of a cool creature, tons of great cool conversion possibilities, and flying. So all things that I like. Zooming around the board with stuff that looks neat. There's your Eldar player coming out right there.